Alright, it's been a little while since my last video. I just wanted to get a little update. Sorry about my voice.
It's official.
I'll just
You
apologize
suck.
for that ahead of time. There's been a few things. The first thing you'll see over here is, and I'm still very much working on this, portrait for Noob Cybot. So, right now it's just Ermax, and I just created a new palette and used the portrait sprite. So that's what that is right now for Noob. So he's got a working portrait instead of the dragon symbol. Also, show you something here. See the combat code. When you put in a combat code now, it blinks a little bit differently. It's actually kind of hard to tell unless you're paying attention. And that's because, see the white text that comes in down there? Something that used to happen, and I can show you again. Show you this way, I think. Let's see if I have it here.
You will never win.
You do any kind of combat code, the text blinks on the screen down there.
Fight. Finish him.
Okay, so I fixed it. I fixed it there.
Wins.
Let me see if I can find. Oh, here we go. Wow. Alright, this is definitely not a fixed version. I was working on different stuff for Human Smoke's palette. So let me beat down. Actually, you a nice little let's see if I can find it. I can actually just use
flawless victory.
The debugger here to
fight.
I just have to find, here it is right here. This address right here, if I knock this down to zeros, that will take all of Nightwolf's energy away.
Victory. Round 3. Fight.
So if I can scroll through here, here's the other one. So this will take Scorpion all the way down.
Finish him.
Okay, so you see how it's white there. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Flawless victory. Friendship.
And then when the curtain comes down, you see player 2 press start to continue is white. Okay. Now let's change this a little bit. Let's put in a combat code, and this works on any combat code. I'm just gonna do Sans power, Sans power. Now watch this. Okay, see how that's blue? Goes away, and then the press start to continue the player 2, see where that's also blue. So go back here. This is the most up-to-date state I have right now.
You will never win. Nightwolf Scorpion. Round 1. Fight. Finish him.
So there, it's white.
Nightwolf wins. Friendship. Friendship again?
Okay, and something else I've been working on. Been working with Human Smoke's palette and his portrait on the select screen. Because if you notice, I will just pull up an image really quick. Let's see. So there's a couple things. If you look on the select screen on N64 MK Trilogy, Smoke, Human Smoke, is actually just, well, he faces the same way that classic Sub-Zero does. I actually never noticed that. But if you look at the PlayStation version, if we can find it, here it is. See, he's facing the opposite way. And if you look at this, you can see in Juggernaut's hack, he faces the opposite way of Sub-Zero. So, what I did when I created the custom portrait for Human Smoke, it references classic Sub-Zero's portrait palette or portrait sprite, but I found a way to mirror it. Problem is, it is not exactly a perfect process. Let me show you. So I'm gonna modify a value, and I made a video about this a while back. Said this was a big reason we don't need Juggernaut's hack. So you can see Human Smoke on the select screen, but you kind of see his portraits moved over to the right some, and that's just nature of the beast when you modify sprite references. Problem is, he turns back around. So I did find a way to fix that. It's here. Yeah. So you see he's still facing, he's facing the opposite way now, but you see the gap and how it kind of almost overlaps Kano's portrait a little bit.
Choose your destiny.
Okay. Here we go. That's the right one. So it still overlaps. You can see it stays put. So that's good. But it still kind of hangs over to the right some. So I'm going to show you what I did. Okay, here you see it works. It works just fine. Okay, it's lined up where it should be.
You will never win.
And we select them. His character portrait stays put. I still don't have the darkening routine set up for Noob and Smoke yet.
Round one. Fight! Well done. Smoke wins.
So anyway. That's what I have now for Human Smoke. I'm going to keep on trying to refine this portrait a little more because you can see um, it's not as crisp as Sub-Zero's is. You can kind of tell that. I've been working on Noobs a little bit as well, but let me show you. Let me show you what I did. So the original code, let me pull this in. Let me set a stop here. Oh, where do I want to do this at? Let's do it right there. Okay. So I'm also going to send it back to this one. Okay. So I'm going to explain this as best I can. I've got it broken right here, okay? And this is the beginning of what we call the flash routine. So when the character's selected, it flashes, okay? It flashes to show that he's been selected on the character select screen. And you see right there, his image got moved back. So a little bit above that, let me set a break a little bit higher up. Okay. Okay. So I've got the breakpoint set now. All right. So what this does is this compare. This command right here is looking for character E, which in the game is Robot Smoke. And if it's not Robot Smoke, okay, this is jump relative not equal to, okay? And that means, so if it's not equal, it's going to compare to see if it's Robot Smoke. And if it's not Robot Smoke, it's going to jump over this line of code and go directly to FFA6 D270. And I think, after doing some research, I think it's comparing here because looking back in some code, if you remember in MK3, on the select screen, sometimes the dragon would slide out of the way to show humans or to show Robot Smoke's portrait. I think this was part of the code that was left over, and it may also store a value for human, for the morph to human smoke. That may not be true, and I can actually check that. In fact, I'll do it right now, so I don't get ahead of myself here. So we're going to change that, and we're going to tell it to look. Now this FFE9 is looking for 16 hex, which is going to look for human smoke. Okay, so you see how it's not there, and I'm going to slide this over some, so you can see it's going to like seriously screw up his palette on his portrait when he gets selected. It's because it is going to go there instead of writing this value to register A9. So when it comes back, see how it's messed up? Alright, anyway. And now I'm going to check to see if it will let me morph into human smoke. Okay, it does. Okay, so all that is doing though, so all that is then is leftover code. All that is then is leftover code. So let me get back to the select screen. Try to explain this a little bit further. So the values above these two, okay, A10 and A9. A10 is storing the values for the flash, for the palette that's used when the select screen flashes when the character is being selected. This right here, A9, stores the values for the characters' portraits themselves. So if I go up and I change this value to a 5, and I can do some crazy stuff with this. Okay. Let me reset it. So we're sitting at 5 right now. Okay. I'm gonna save it to a position that I don't need. There we go. And it's gonna select, and it's gonna turn him the other way.
Smoke. Choose your destiny.
Okay, and I'm also gonna take off the breakpoints. So yeah, you can see
Smoke. Choose
that actually
your
doesn't do that just with Human Smoke.
Katana.
It'll do it with Katana.
Choose your destiny.
I mean, it'll do it with... Oops. Don't pay attention to that. It'll actually do it with all of them except for Smoke, because it's checking for character.
Smoke. Choose
So
your destiny. That was pathetic. Round 1. Fight! Scorpion wins. Round 2. Fight!
alright, so I'm going to reset again. I'm going to show you what I did to remedy this. I'm going to put the breakpoints back in. Okay. Alright, so we're just going to choose Katana. Let me set the breakpoint a little bit higher, sorry. Okay, so it's looking for so it's moved up. It's here. These are the codes that are going in. The references for the character's portrait sprite and the flash palette. So we go, and now I have I've written some custom code. So it's going to jump to that custom code, and the first thing it's going to do is it's going to look for human smoke. I'm sorry, robot smoke. And if it finds robot, and if the character is robot smoke, it's going to jump back to this address here, which is back up in the custom game code, or which is back up in the game code. And when it does that, it's actually going to reinsert itself, I think, right here in this code, but we can check that and explore it. The next thing it's going to do, it's going to look for human smoke. And if it is human smoke, it's going to jump down to here, and I'll show you what that does. So let it play through. It selects guitar. I'm going to show you what happens when it's robot smoke. Okay. So it finds robot smoke, and it goes right back to that address, the D240. So that's where it's supposed to be. If you remember in the original code before I put this custom code in here, it did a check for human smoke up here. And if it wasn't equal to, to robot smoke, if it wasn't equal to robot smoke, it would skip this line of code and go to the next line of code and continue on. We had to hook in some custom code so that it would know what to do when it found human smoke. Okay, so now we found human smoke. Okay, so now human smoke. So it's gonna, if it's equal to human smoke, which 16 hex is, okay, it is going to jump to here. So you see the difference is, okay, pull this over a little bit, 09E9, so it's moving this value to register A9, and EA is moving the information to register A10. The only difference is we've gone from 4 to 5. We've gone from an even number to an odd number. And when it does that, it selects human smoke. The flash palette shifts over a little bit to cover the entire portrait. And you see where it doesn't flip. So let me show you some of the things you can do. Okay, we're gonna mess with this a little bit. Let me take the brakes out. Let's just change this to, I don't know, something like, let's change it to a 7. The different values there cause different things to happen to sprites. So there, we turned them upside down. We can do something, let's see, we can explore some of the different modifications. So change it to 1. Well, maybe if I use the right, nope. So we got 1. 1 doesn't do much. Let's try 3. It just goes away. I want to show you one thing that was a surprise to me was the flash palette. Okay, so I'm going to leave the flash palette how it is, and I'm going to go into this last piece of code that I created. And so this 0300 is no operation. You're going to see so we get a break. All right, so do you see the flash palette doesn't actually cover this area right on the right? I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but it doesn't cover that area right there. And that's why I had to create the spot that goes, that's why I had to create that piece of data that effectively treats the flash palette as also mirrored, if you will. So that's why I had to do it that way. And one more thing before I go. I want to know your opinions. Let me see if I can find the code. It's in here somewhere. I just don't have my don't have my code sheet pulled up where I've made all my changes. So I'm going to change a couple things in Noob's portrait. Okay. Going to mirror him, and I kind of turn the corner a little bit darker. And again, it's kind of a work in progress. So that's it mirrored, and and I'll fix it to where it's correct. But that is new. That is basically Ermac's portrait mirrored and blacked out, for Noob. And then let's see. So I will take a snapshot. All right, and I'm just going to set it over here. All right. All right. So you got mirrored Noob, which there's not a whole lot of difference. I did modify one color code, so there's a little less green in there than there is over here. So, but if you watch to the end, I'd like to get your feedback on Noob's portrait. Unfortunately, the Juggernaut hack palette only corresponds with the unique sprite that was created for Noob's character select portrait. So I can't use the palette that was created with any of the male ninjas. And there are still some other things that I may work on. This is not by any means a final version or anything like that. But that is what has kind of been going on. I have all kinds of crazy stuff. I just have a kind of a scratch pad that I've been using for all this stuff. There's one of Noob's other palettes, another one of Noob's other palettes. Just kind of trying to create, trying to make it look a little bit better. So that's really all I have for now. I do have the character bios displaying correctly now. It doesn't just cycle between the 4 ninjas. It will go through all of them. And then it does it a little bit better than Juggernaut's, because Juggernaut's hack, all it does is it shows 2 bios, and then the 2 bios that it showed, those 2 characters fight. And some people like that, some people don't. I don't particularly care for it. I like to see random fights. I like to see the characters, all the characters' bios. So I'm going to jump off now. Appreciate you guys listening and watching. Thanks.